Got so quiet. I feel like we need some music. Hello, everyone, as you are welcomed into the room.
Mhm.
That's right. We should have been playing some music. That would have been very fitting for this session.
That's
It
true.
would have.
Next time.
Next time. We'll go ahead and get started in the interest of time. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our Visual and Performing Arts Industry Insights panel. We have got a great lineup of panelists this afternoon who have graciously offered their time to share their experience and expertise. So in the interest of time, we are going to go ahead and get started. We'll jump right in. It is my pleasure to introduce my esteemed colleague and our moderator for today's panel, theater performance professor, certified yoga instructor, and thespian extraordinaire, Lydia Mackay.
Hello. Thank you so much for that introduction. So thank you all so much for joining us today and welcome to the Industry Insights. I was so pleased to know that this event was still going to go on despite COVID because I love attending every year. I think it's an excellent way for our current students to interact with our alumni and gain some really interesting insights. So I'll kick us off by introducing our esteemed panel of artists. So I'm going to begin with Kyle Montgomery. So Kyle Montgomery, you want to give us a wave so everyone can see you? Yes, hello. So Kyle has performed, stage managed, produced throughout North America. He received his BFA in musical theater right here at TCU. And his regional credits include work at Deaf West, Actors Co-op, Uptown Players, Lyric Stage, Trinity Shakespeare Festival, Water Tower Theater, Circle Theater, Theater 3, Stage West, and so many others. Kyle's actually also traveled with the international tour of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the musical, for about 3 whole years, playing the beloved character of Hermie, the elf, of the classic stop-action film. He's also performed in special performances such as the Josh Groban Donna McKechnie. Am I pronouncing her name correct, Kyle? Donna McKechnie, Jodie Benson, Doug, and then, oh, here's a tricky name. Kyle, help me out. Doug Lebrec. I got it. Awesome. Susan Egan and Jason Robert Brown. So Kyle's had a chance to perform with all of these amazing artists. Kyle is currently pursuing his MFA in musical theater at San Diego State University and is a proud member of the Actors Equity Association. Kyle, welcome. It's so good to see you. Thanks for joining us today. So our next panelist is Shawna Hennig. And Shanna combines an extensive background in finance and insurance with a lifelong passion for the arts. Through multiple roles in industry segments ranging from art title insurance to fine art appraisal, Shanna has established a professional focus on supporting high net worth individuals and their trusted advisors in managing clients' alternative assets. Shanna, you want to wave while I continue to introduce you? As Winston's art, is that correct? Yes. As a Winston Art Group's Southwest Director, Shawna manages a multi-state territory that stretches from Montana to Texas. Shawna holds a Bachelor of Business Administration from TCU, a certificate of Fine Art Appraisal from the University of California, Irvine, and is certified in Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. Wow, that is a lot.
And all of it is meaningless. It has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about today.
Not necessarily. I don't think I would say it's meaningless. I mean, it does mean something.
It's a handful, but I'll boil it all down.
We'll boil it all down. Excellent. So Shawna is highly involved in the local arts and business communities. And so we're so very lucky to have her with us today. I'm going to move on to Eduardo Rojas. Eduardo, you want to give us a wave and let us see you?
That's me. That's me.
Excellent. So Eduardo has been hailed by the Dallas Morning News as clearly a pianist with considerable skill and force of personality. Eduardo Rojas has appeared as soloist with orchestras throughout South and North America. Noteworthy appearances include the Richmond Symphony, National Symphony Orchestra of Colombia, Bogota Philharmonic, Bogota Symphony, Philharmonic of Cali, Panama National Orchestra, and far, far too many others to name. So let's see, inspired by his vision of integrating his musical skills with his natural passion for teaching and entrepreneurship, Eduardo Rojas founded the Rojas School of Music. And I think that's the background you're using right now. Yes, in 2014. It's a private institution aimed at deepening the impact of artistic education in the DFW area where Eduardo resides. So let's move right on to our next panelist. I'd like to introduce Matt Hovde. Matt, give us a wave. So Matt Hovde saw a kids show at Second City when he was about 10 years old and has been obsessed with the place ever since. He's a conservatory program grad and began teaching at Second City in 2003. Matt has directed several resident reviews of on the main stage, including A Red Line Runs Through It, Let Them Eat Chaos, Sky's the Limit, Studs Turkle's Not Working, and too many others to name. Where I lost my place. There we go. As a teacher, he has taught workshops in Japan, Australia, Spain, and many other amazing places. He studied TV, film, and theater at TCU and is eternally grateful to his mentors in the business. So Matt, welcome. Thank you for being with us today. And last but most definitely not least, I'd like to introduce Tristan Griffin to our panel. Give us a wave, Tristan. Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us. So Tristan is a native of Kansas City, Missouri, and he graduated from TCU in 2014, receiving his BFA in ballet with an English minor. Following graduation, he joined and danced for Garth Fagan Dance Company for 3 years. And more recently, he was given the opportunity to perform with the Metropolitan Opera House, the Lyric Opera House of Kansas City, Williams Henry Contemporary Dance Company, and Owen Cox Dance Group. He started his own dance company in Kansas City, Missouri last year. Yay, that's amazing. The company has been commissioned by Nelson Adkins Museum, Charlotte Street Foundation, Arts KC, American Jazz Museum, and Malashok Dance Company. Did I say that right, Tristan? Is it Malashok? Oh, I can't hear him.
Yep, you got it right. You got
it right. Got to make sure. And he was also selected as tenure for the Charlotte Street Foundation 2018 to 2020 Artist in Residency Program. Yes. So thank you all so much for joining us today and spending your time with our students. And boom, all of a sudden, we are in the Zoom room with all of the humans. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm going to start off with a question for Tristan, actually. So tell us all just a little bit about your TCU background, what title or titles you currently hold in your professional career, and just a bit about what you're currently doing in the field of visual and performing arts.
Yeah, I started off where I was at TCU, started off in the dance program, ballet focused, and I just went through the track, always being a sponge, soaking up the information from my professors, trying to do the extra. There was the, basic curriculum that it was offered. And I was always wanted to go past that and see what they offered. And my professors were really honored in that. And so they really pushed me and offered that information. I was very happy and appreciative and grateful. And with that information, I was able to go past and do cool things after graduation. I joined Garth Fagan, who is the director, or not the director, the choreographer for Lion King, the musical. And so I danced for him for about 3 years, and I toured to LA, to New York, at the Joyce Theater, and provided a credible amount of experience and performances. And from there, I started to freelance, realizing that being under a contract for a company wasn't really for me. So I started to freelance and do project gigs. And that's where I joined Metropolitan Opera House in New York City. And I did the opera Marnie, and it premiered 2018, I think it was. And so from there, I've just been kind of freelancing and then started my dance company, where I wanted to start putting a voice behind my work and behind my efforts to change the community in Kansas City. And through that, I was able to be commissioned through Charlotte Street and Nelson and all those other awesome organizations for the support, and really show my work on a great platform. And it's been a really cool opportunity to be back home, because I haven't been home, for a while, because I've been to TCU, and from there I went to New York. So being back home, I have reconnected with the roots, but also developed new relationships in KC. And I must say that the arts is growing very, very well here, and it's on the up climb for on a global scale what it can offer for the artists here. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about to tie into that? Can you tell us a little bit about work that you're currently working on?
Yeah, actually, I've been, since February, been producing work sporadically. There was a show that I did at Nelson that I was commissioned for at the museum, which was an installation project throughout the entire museum. And then from there, I've just been choreographing and I have been commissioned through Charlotte Street and Arts KC to produce work. And now this is kind of my downtime. This is kind of a hiatus where I am actually developing more creativity, creative ideas and things that I will use for my projects next year. And so the Melashock commission is actually in the spring, and they are based in San Diego. And so I will go out there for about a month to set a piece in collaboration with John Melashock, who is the artistic director. And we will be working together collaboratively on this project for about a month. So that's what I'm kind of doing right now in this, like, winter months. Is kind of like, not to be cheesy, but kind of like shelter myself off and be in the cabin and, write a lot, journal a lot, and obviously dance a lot with myself, and do a lot of playing and experimenting with phrases and dance, and then use that as material for my future projects.
That's fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tristan.
Mm-hmm,
So,
for sure.
Shawna, I'd like to ask you the same question. So tell us just a little bit about your background at TCU, and then any title or titles that you currently hold, and just a little bit about what you're currently doing in your field.
Yeah, I'll unpack that biography, which was clearly written for a totally different audience. So I actually take a circuitous route to the arts. And I was thinking before I stepped in, or as I was sort of thinking about what I wanted to talk about, if I ever set foot in the art school while I was at TCU. And in fact, I did, because one of my roommates was a ballet major as well. So I did, but I didn't personally take classes in the art school. My mother had an art degree, never used it. Kind of the joke about having an art history degree, not being able to find a job, not making enough money, having a lot of debt. I thought I would go into business and use that make a lot of money and use that as a way to be a patron of the arts. That's what I thought my route would be. It's a passion that I've always had. My parents very much exposed all of us, all of my siblings and I, to the arts. We traveled, we learned a lot from my mother. I just didn't think you had a career in the art world. So I spent the majority of my time at TCU in the business school. I have a major in sales and marketing, and then my minor was in advertising and public relations. And I've always said, if I would never regret my path in life, but if I could ever go back and change it, I might have minored in something a bit more specific, perhaps something on the creative side, so that I could, balance the sales side that we all have to have in our jobs with something that's more creative. I left TCU, worked at an art gallery in marketing for about a year, and I was proven right that you don't make money in the art world. And I got a very quick lesson on return on investment when my parents told me that I was off the dole, and I had to figure out how to make it on my own, and again, just it wasn't going to pay the bills. So I did work in business, in banking for about 5 years, working with high net worth individuals, and most high net worth individuals have passions that they support, including obviously art. And so my connection to my clients very much happened around their art collections. And it's where I really saw, it really opened my eyes to the art world, and that it wasn't just about the creating, but there's a whole ecosystem around art and collectibles, and all of the people who support the trade of art, and not something that you're necessarily exposed to until you're out in the real world. And when I was open to that, like I said, it opened my eyes, and I took a let's call it an unexpected first sabbatical from the business world, and took a step back and really used that opportunity to think about how I might leverage my expertise on the business side and channel that towards the arts. That's when I got into art insurance. And then I worked in art insurance for about 4 years before I took my second sabbatical to go back to school for art history, and to really focus on art advisory and appraisal. So what I do now at Winston Art Group is primarily assist collectors. And I kind of consider it like the life cycle of collecting and nurturing a passion of the arts. So starting with education around building a collection, advising on, you become somewhat of a therapist and sort of marry the collector to the artwork that sort of speaks to them, and you guide them through that process of acquisition, and then bring in protecting that art through its ownership. So making sure that it's properly insured, and that it's properly framed and hung, and well cared for, and obviously of the appropriate value, and then making plans for what happens when the inevitable happens. Perhaps you don't want to own that art anymore, or you pass away and you have to transfer that art to your children, or you're going to gift it to a museum, or you're going to sell it, and we help clients on that end as well. So basically my job is everything around supporting the collector, but it all starts with the education around wise collecting and buying.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So Matt, I'm going to ask you the same question. Just give us a little bit of background with your time at TCU, titles you currently hold, projects you're currently working on, and how you navigate art space.
Sure, happy to. So you kind of said it in my bio. I was born in the Chicago area, so I saw a show at Second City when I was a kid, and it kind of stuck with me. And my family moved from Chicago to Omaha, and so it always was in my back of my brain that I wanted to get back to Chicago. So naturally, I decided to go to TCU in Texas to get me there. Largely because I had a couple of friends, older siblings, that had gone to TCU, and my campus visit showed me that the theater department and the TV film department were sort of at the cusp of a big change. So I decided to study those things there. And it was great timing because there was like a big turnover in both of those departments in my first couple of years at TCU, and they really set me up to, achieve my goals. My mentor in the TV film department was Richard Allen, and he was a big comedy person and knew a lot about Second City and knew about the Chicago comedy scene. And my main acting mentor was a man named Stephen Brees, and he encouraged me to follow improvisation and allowed me to basically make stuff up for my senior year and do whatever I wanted. So I just had a lot of empowerment of following those things. As soon as I graduated, I came to Chicago and started studying at the Second City, and declared pretty early that my main goal at Second City would be to be a director, because the Second City process of creating material was pretty unique. And we use improvisation to create our scenes and sketches and characters, and the director sort of acts as a head writer and facilitator of that creation process. So I kind of declared that as my goal, and spent a few years kind of hustling on the side and doing shows for 20 people. And eventually you get a little bit more going on. And then I started teaching for Second City in the improv department, and then became a director at Second City in the mid 2000s, and started working in the touring company. So got to do a lot of traveling with Second City and seeing these different communities and teaching in these different communities, and then became a resident director in the late 2000s. So that's where I started working on the high-end professional shows there. And then in 2009, I became an artistic director for Second City, and I held that title for the last 10 years. Interestingly enough, that role I had stepped down from in March, through no correlation to COVID, but I had decided that I had kind of achieved everything at Second City I'd wanted to, and had sort of had the same role there for several years, and was looking outside of Second City as a place to find maybe a challenge for applying creative skills to slightly more real world applications, or at least being open to rejuvenating kind of my inspiration. And so I had put in my notice at Second City in March, and my last day at Second City was the first day that the theaters closed down. So literally they haven't run a show live at Second City since that day, which is just a really weird thing to have to kind of live with. That that industry is just obviously basically inert right now. I had lined up a job that I still currently have at a design firm called IDEO in Chicago, which is based in California, but has an office here, that does a variety of strange and interesting things in the design world. And so I was brought on as a writer and storyteller, kind of using my background in creation and running creative teams to bring them some new insights and stuff. So I still have a consultant role at Second City, although there's not much to consult on right now. They're kind of on their own. And I do teach still both for Second City and for DePaul University here in Chicago in the comedy screenwriting department. So those are some of the things that I've been doing and want to keep doing.
Awesome. That's awesome. I noticed in your bio, it said you were a dungeon master. Does that mean you're a fan
Yes.
of Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh my gosh, it does.
Yeah.
I mean, my whole life has been goofing around basically. So that's a big part of, that was a big part of my life at TCU. Honestly, we were the nerds that were in the library, in the residence halls, and people would walk through and be like, what are they doing? And we're like, don't worry about it. It's all good.
It's all good.
And I still do it. Yep.
Love that. Awesome. Thank you, Matt. So Eduardo, I'd love to come to you next and ask you the same question. Tell us just a little bit about your background with TCU and what you're doing currently.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It's really great to have all these wonderful colleagues that we all went to TCU. TCU is a great school, and I will be always grateful because TCU, I came to the United States, to Texas. Now that is my home. In 2006, I came into their artist diploma for concert pianists. So, and then after that, I went into my master's as well at TCU. And then I met my wife. She's from Plano, Texas. So I decided to make Texas my home. And well, after that, I had the opportunity to teach and work as a pianist for the Fort Worth Opera. Also, I was one of the principal pianists for SMU in Dallas. Also, I was artist in residence for Tarrant County College, for 7, 8 years. But I think about music not just in terms of me being the soloist and being the center of everything, which is great, yeah. But also, I wanted to make a sort of an impact in the community that I live in. I live in Grapevine. There's a bunch of cities surrounded Grapevine which don't have orchestra programs in the elementary school. As we all know, well, most of the orchestras start in middle school, and of course it's never late, but it's better to start to play the violin when you are in kindergarten, of course, no? So I wanted to make an impact, and I saw an opportunity to create my own school. I also believe, of course, that's my opinion, extremely in being independent and create your own opportunities. So many, very often we sit down to wait for opportunities, but I prefer to make my own opportunities. It's a little harder, and it takes much more just than play well the piano. You know, many of the skills that I had to learn through through my life. So I always liked the business part of music as well. I wanted to. I didn't want to apply for a job. I wanted to give jobs to artists that actually they need a lot of job actually after school. You know, so I created this, and now we have about 500 currently students weekly. Plus, I built this wonderful facility 3 years and a half from ground zero. And besides that, we own as well five orchestras in elementary school, in two charter school, one in Flower Mound, another one in Lantana, Texas, and we are about to open another after school program in Frisco, Texas. So that's my passion, and seeing hundreds of kids play music that they didn't before really makes me happy. And on the financial point, of course, is also great to create your own job and to give jobs. Also, one of my desires, because I am international, and we international people go through painful situations to have our visas legally here. And now I am proud of being able to offer job visas for international teachers through my own school. So that's what I'm doing currently with my team, no? Because I have a little more than 20 teachers, actually, including teachers from TCU, from MSMU, and from UNT that they have graduated, and now they're also this year during the pandemic. I had the opportunity to offer full-time jobs with benefits as well. So, I think having a great mix between business and music, we can actually do better things and much more for the industry of classical music and education.
Wow, that's really wonderful. That is really, really wonderful. And I love what you said about creating your own opportunities. I think that's so important, so very important for our students to hear. So, let's see, Kyle, I'm going to come to you now and ask you the same question I've asked of our other panelists. So, tell us a little bit about your background with TCU specifically, and a little bit more about what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so hi friends, Kyle. I went to TCU from 2011 to 2015. My degree is BFA in theater, emphasis in musical theater. And kind of like, is it Shanna? Kind of like what Shanna said, I kind of understood that, not a lot of people make it as an artist that can only perform and make their living off of that. So from freshman year, I got an internship with Circle Theater, which is downtown Fort Worth, and became their administrative assistant as a freshman. While I was there, kind of quickly grew to their associate producer position right after college. But during college, I also found opportunities to perform in the Metroplex. I don't know if they still allow that. We kind of got into a lot of trouble during our years. I think contracts were being signed at some point that we had to, anyways, I don't know what the new rules are, if there are any rules, whatever, but I found a lot of opportunities to perform outside of school as well, which was super, super beneficial. So after college, associate producer at Circle Theater and continued to perform in the Metroplex. I also started stage managing at Circle Theater, which was a tool that I really was interested in. I actually took a class in stage management at TCU because I knew that was something that I would be potentially going to be doing. And then about 2 years ago, me and my partner, who says hello, Lydia, he wanted to pursue television and film, and he has a BFA in theater as well, from TCU. So we moved to Los Angeles so that he could pursue that. And so I took an administrative position at a theater company in Hollywood called Actors Co-op. And I produced shows for them, and with Joe Bowery, who is the artistic director for the Gary Marshall Theater. And then kind of was in a lull with performance. The theater community in LA is very different than I thought it was going to be, especially as an equity member. It's very interesting, the new laws that they have and the rules that they have for the past 10 years. So I was kind of in a lull. So I kind of went headfirst into stage management, and really went for that just because I needed the weeks for health insurance. But it was kind of amazing. When I started pursuing that, things started opening up real quickly. I had an interview for an off-Broadway or a out-of-town Broadway show that was going to head to Broadway as their production stage manager. And then I had an opportunity with Deaf West. It was very odd that, yay, yes, I see. Very odd that everything was kind of opening up with stage management, but it's because I had those skills that I decided to start and implement at TCU with taking the class and my internship at Circle. But yeah, so it was closed. I took the Deaf West job because we were going to go to Japan, but that obviously didn't work out because of COVID, which was so sad. We were going to do a LA run and then go to Japan and do part of their government festival that was going to be in correlation with the Olympics, which was so incredible and so cool, but unfortunately that didn't work out. But I thought it might be a good time to go back to school, since I was kind of feeling a little bit stagnant. And so I am pursuing my MFA in musical theater, and it's one of the only 2 MFAs in musical theater in the world. The other one is, I believe, at Berkeley, maybe. But this is a half performance, half pedagogy degree. And it's Jessica Humphreys, who I believe is a professor at TCU, came and got her degree here. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing currently, and absorbing as much as I can to potentially teach in probably the far future. Just getting the degree now so that I feel good to jump into that when I feel the time is right.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. And tell Rashawn I also said hello. So I actually would love to circle back around to Tristan and ask you a question that was dropped into the chat from Elizabeth Gillespie. And because I know that some of you students are going to have to run to class soon. So Tristan, the question is, what might you offer to current students with regard to how networking and relationship building has served your professional opportunities and pathways? And I think that's a fantastic question. So for the other panelists, think about that as well, and I'll come back around. But Tristan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great question because that's something when I was a student I really struggled with, because we're all, dancing hard, pursuing our own career endeavors, but no one really gives you a manual of how to network and how to connect with people and be genuine about it and not just really one dimensional. And so when it came to me learning that kind of for myself and what I was doing, I realized that website is key and up-to-date website is key. And that you really have to stay up to date with that and make sure that everything that you have current is there on the website, and that when you connect with someone, you let them know that your website is there and that it's accessible. But also staying in touch or engaged on social media for me has been a huge key to me connecting with the community in Kansas City, and people sharing my Instagram profile for myself and for my company, and learning about what I do and who I am, just simply through what I have done in the past and what I put out there for the audience, public audience. And also do things like this, staying in touch, engaged with people who have graduated or people who have gone on and done things that you want to do as well, follow in their footsteps, connect with them, learn from them, get their insight of their experience, what they would, what they wish they did not do, and things of that nature. And so you learn from others' success and mistakes. And that's like a huge key. And that's something I really learned at TCU, was that Gillespie, who actually asked that, is my professor from when I was in school. Roma Flowers, Nina Martin, those people really drove me to connect with people who have gone on, and alumni from TCU, and people who have companies that I admire, and reach out to them and see what they do and how they run logistically. And artists outside of dance, what they actually practice in their philosophy, and connect with them to see if there's a possible collaboration, or if they're willing to talk with me and give me their insight on their careers and endeavors. So that's a huge thing that I learned, to connect with people that are outside of your field, but also who have gone and become successful in their own endeavors and follow their success. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak to the importance of network and relationship building? Just jump on in the conversation.
I would love to echo what Tristan said. That was a huge thing as I was preparing my notes, thinking about networking, everything he said. I know for myself, I'm very generous with my time, because it was really important for me as I was trying to navigate and figure out what my career was going to look like, to learn from others who have come before me. And I think, just to sort of build upon everything that Tristan said, is when you're connecting, be in the community that you want to be in. So for me, of course, it's, visual arts. So, insert performing arts here, be in those communities and connect with people of all different, areas of knowledge within your practice. Not, like Tristan said, have a great website, know how to speak with confidence about your practice and what you do. That's something that I think in school you can do right now. And then be prepared. So you not only want to be prepared for yourself, but know who you're connecting with, so that as you're following up with them, do your research on their backgrounds. And it's not a one and done. You want to make sure that you're building on those relationships, because one never knows when that person you met 5 years ago is going to be the person who opens a door for you. So make sure that it's upon you to stay on top of them. And just a tiny little soft skill that I wrote down is, as you're networking, and if you're asking someone for their time and they're generous with that, send a thank you. I think it goes such a long way. I will always say yes if someone asks for my time, but I notice if someone acknowledges the time that I took to give them those nuggets. So I think it's, making sure to stay in touch with people, and also showing the gratitude for their time is critical. And just while I have the platform, I want to also echo what Eduardo said about creating your own opportunities. I mean, nothing is, as we know in this strange world, nothing is promised to us. And so when the world zigs, it's good to have some skills in your back pocket. It's a great time right now to be thinking about how you can zag while you kind of have it's a scary time to be in school, but it's also a nice safety net. An opportunity to figure out how you can pivot in the long term. I've had to do it twice in my career, so.
Yeah, definitely.
I would like to say something, if I can.
Please.
Just to go in the same direction as Tristan and Shanna, I would like to maybe a little talk a little more specific to musicians. um, uh, Unfortunately, our profession as concert violinists, concert, to give high quality concerts, we need too much time alone. You know, I used to practice 8 hours, 10 hours a day. To participate in competition or or to participate in the Van Cliburn competition, and I found myself a little lonely and a little kind of weird. I couldn't. So I started to think, well, I need people around me, right? Uh, First of all, I need to practice my English because I came to Texas with no words in English, and English is a very complicated language. So yeah, let's not neglect that we need people, and we need to also being honest in a relationship. Sometimes as a musician, and I was like that, is all about me and give me, and I'm the talented, and and play. But we also need to give ourselves to people. You know, After all this school process, a, a good, a very good business relationship start with a good personal and honest relationship. So as artists and as pianists and some musicians, it's even more valuable share time with others than just with one instrument all the time. And because as we get older, we are not the young genius, right? And life brings us more responsibility. So a lot of things change. That would be my advice for musicians to open a little more your mind, your soul, inner being, and really be a little more social and be a little more part of your community, you know.
Thank you, Eduardo. Matt, Kyle, do you want to add anything about relationship building in your career?
Yeah, I'll start. DFW feels smaller now. I think it's because there's so many theater artists that are working together and that are creating opportunities for themselves. We have so many different smaller theater companies popping up, it seems like every year. So I think it's very important to go see shows. That's how I networked a lot. I mean, I worked at a theater company, so people came to us because they wanted jobs. So I got to that way. But thing for me to network was to go see other people's work, to go see other craft, to then stay afterwards and talk to them about their experience and say, hey, I'm creating this work at this other theater, or I'm creating this work on my own. And because of your work that I saw today, I would really like to collaborate with you. And I hate that because I'm not that person that's super like in your face, like, hi, how's it going? Like, let's talk, let's be that, like these people together. I'm very much like, hi, let's talk and keep a space between us. But I think sometimes that's necessary if you're passionate about what you do and you see someone else that's passionate, just approach them, have a conversation. They're usually pretty open to it. And if their work is good, then your work's going to be good because of that. So it'll create opportunities that circulate from just going to other shows and other experiences. And
Yeah,
surround yourself with a wide variety of people. So go to like comedy shows, go to art shows, go to the opera, go to the symphony, do all of that and see what sparks your interest. Sorry, Lydia.
No, that was great. Thank you. I was going to just add that, Matt mentioned in the chat, which is open and you are all welcome to use it at any time, that networking is kind of a nightmare. And I agree. It can be really, really intimidating. And sometimes it can feel maybe a little fake, a little phony, a little bit put on. So I think what Elizabeth mentioned in the chat thread about relationship building, and to go off of what Kyle said, get out of your house, get out into your community, meet people. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself, have conversations about the work, and begin to build those relationships, because those are the ones that will really last. So I'm gonna pivot ever so slightly to kind of move on to a new topic, and that is the art world in the time of COVID. So what are some things that you learned while you were in school, skills that you built while you were in school or throughout your entire career that have our history, where all of a sudden our industries are disrupted, and in some cases very dramatically? What are some things that you've been able to pull from your education and your career to help you navigate these very uncertain times? And the floor is open, so just anybody jump on in.
Well, I have two perspectives as an artist or pianist and as a owner of the school. So I don't know which one would be, well, I guess both are relevant. Um, I just want to share a little bit of experience. Mm, uh, we have interviewed in the past 6 years and a half, a little more than 100 musicians in music uh, college students, mostly with masters and but even with doctorates too, from all these three major schools, of course, counting TCU in it. And you know, one one of the a few of the teachers that I needed to let them go because they saw that teaching kids is a little not for their level, right?
Mm.
It's not important. And then they are surviving because they're teaching kids, you know? And so I think for me, and I hope that for many musicians, COVID is has helped us to, or has taught us to be a little more humble,
Mm.
because um, you can be a great artist and famous, but now with COVID, a lot of artists are bankruptcy, right? And my experience as owner of the school and as an artist is that a lot of them don't care about, even for example, being part of a foundation, or they don't know and they don't want to know anything about business. Oh, no, no, no. You know, they don't want to be involved in community projects, etc., just because they are good level artists. So I think and I hope that we come to be more humble in many ways as
Mm.
artists and really concentrate in building a little more our community and our surrounded, rather than just my ego as an artist. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Eduardo. Tristan, you look like you were going to add something a moment ago. Was there anything you wanted to share?
Yeah. While at TCU, it's a liberal arts school, so the primary focus is not performance or it's not choreographing. It's actually to be more well-rounded as an artist, or in the field that you do. And so that's something that I learned. I had to take classes from the business school, from religion department, and so I had to get all this education in fields that I thought honestly I wasn't going to use ever. And so I was like, well, what's the point in all this? And now I'm starting to see the fruition out of that. And so I'm able to, build a website where I'm able to understand technology and troubleshoot on my own instead of going to someone to build the website or help me through IT. Um, and then the business is just as simple as that. Like, this is as beautiful and giving as the art is, it's still a business at the end of the day, because you want to make it a for profit and not just be in it to give and never see a return. And so learning the business plan, having that as a basic thing that you should have before becoming a 501c3 or for profit, you need to understand why you are creating a business. and learning how to connect with the right people to have a board, or if you want to do for profit or LLC, you don't need that. Things of that nature. You have to understand a why, and what is best for your organization and your vision. And so TCU really taught me that, just being a part of a liberal arts school, of being well-rounded and learning things that starting out as an elective and then ended up being a passion, you know. So that's how English started out for me. I can write my own grants because of that nature.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. So that actually kind of ties into what's been happening in the chat. Matt, would you talk a little bit about the nature of improv and how important improv has been in this time of your life, trying to work around COVID?
Yeah, it's definitely a case where the underlying skill and the philosophy are basically blurring together these days, because when you practice improvisation or learn it, you're learning how to work well with others. You're learning how to give up sort of a little part of your ownership of something to find something with the ensemble. You're learning how to be flexible and not be thrown by curveballs. And that's how every working artist right now is having to navigate the world in sort of this very flexible, what are you supposed to do next? And like, that's the improviser's nightmare, is in a scene, you're like, you freeze up and you're like, what do I do? What's happening? What is my partner doing? I have no idea what to do next. No one likes me. This is terrible. I want to get out of here. It's sort of every improviser's mindset. And that's a lot of what's happening for working artists right now too. You're like, you don't know what to do. Your partner's left you on stage alone. No one wants to pay you. Like, no one's going to hire you right now to make them laugh. It's just brutal to kind of navigate that. So I think the people that are finding the most sanity right now are actually not putting pressure on themselves to advance their career as much as they are to just acknowledge, like, this is weird. This is not normal, and it won't be forever. So you can't expect to substitute the thing that you were doing with something equally as either enriching or forward progress leading. Like, you just can't. So you kind of got to just surrender to the wave of the thing. And the thing right now is, no one knows when people will pay to see live theater or live arts again. And so you can't hinge your sanity on that being a thing that, like, a date is going to give you, or like it'll get back to normal this day. It's pointless. So the improvisational mindset says, play the game that's there, be in the moment. And so all you can do is basically like shrug, read a book, like consume stuff, sharpen your other skills, take care of your body, take care of your family the best you can. And the hope, I think the long game here is that it'll all rise back up and people will be desperate to consume it again. So just being patient and like not rushing yourself is kind of the skill that I think ties in the most.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Shanna, Kyle, do you want to speak to that before we move to another question? And I do want to have time for questions from our guests and our students today. So we will get to that, I promise, but feel free to keep using the chat. Kyle, Shanna, anything?
After you, Kyle. I was thinking Matt could charge for that therapy. I think it's it's so true. I think we all there's a lot of pressure. I mean, I know personally I work in visual arts, but I'm craving so desperately to see music and to see performances. And so I think the thing that I keep saying to myself, that I think is advice more generally, is to think outside of the box. So, right now we can't do what we're used to doing. Having that open mind to, as hard as it might be, to sort of think about ways that we can either use this time for reflection or retooling, or to go inward or to go outward, whatever is going to serve us to figure out, like, it's not the same for every person, but to kind of trust that instinct and to, I guess, just be gentle on ourselves and others. And I think the blessing of being, and again, I went to the business school. I'm more of a consumer than I am a creator. And I find it very, very lucky for you all to be creatives who can use that as part of the therapy or the outlet to find the way through right now. It's very esoteric, I realize. It doesn't like get you a job, but it definitely, you might find yourself discovering that thing that makes you different or special, or, you know, in times of challenge. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Awesome. Thank you. Kyle?
Can I ask a question about, Lydia, you might know this better
Yeah.
than I do. What is I know that TCU's performance, they just did a filmed something.
We released a streaming version of 2 things, actually, and we've got another one opening this evening.
Got it. Cool. Yeah. So I think that it's hard during this time, especially if classes are going to be done over Zoom for performers, that they feel like they're actually performing. I feel like I'm talking into a void when I'm on Zoom, and I don't have the other, as Matt was talking about, I don't have that kind of interaction that you need as a performer. And it's hard to have those performance opportunities at a school because there's so many rules. There's so many things that they have to go through. They have to follow the guidelines that the school has placed in. They have to go through the health regulations, whatever. What we are finding at SDSU is that the students have to go out and do it themselves. And hopefully that becomes an example for the professors above them to see, and then utilize that to create more opportunities that will be solidified in their curriculum. We have about 3 different clubs that are really doing an incredible amount of work, but it's showing the professors that they could do more. So I would just encourage the students to do as much as they can outside of class to show that they have the time, that there is time, that they want to perform, and showing the professors that it can really offer more time for performance opportunities, because I think that's what's going to help y'all the most at TCU is performing in class, performing outside of class, performing on the stage during the evenings for their main stage and studio stuff. So that's what I think y'all can do during COVID, is create those opportunities that show that there's time and that there's a want from the students. Because I'm getting a lot of information from students currently that are saying that there's not a lot of performance opportunities throughout the student body. And so if y'all can show that there is time and effort and need and want, I think that will allow that space to open up.
Thank you. Great for that.
Yeah.
So I have a couple other questions, but I would actually love to, since we're at 1 o'clock, we've got about a half an hour left. I'd love to take some time for direct, open question and conversation from those of you in the call. And if there are none, I'll move on to my questions, but I want to make sure you have some time. So does anyone have a question they'd like to ask to the group of panelists or to someone specifically?
Yes, hi, I have a question. I'm in the process of doing my video. I just got back from getting groceries. Hello, hi. For Matt, I was just typing in the chat and you answered my other question, so thank you. But I was wondering if does Second City or comic theaters, do they make use of talent agents / do they attend any senior showcases? And if so, what format would you be looking for?
Well, it's kind of a challenging thing right now because, just to be clear, there's nobody's looking for anybody. So let's just be super honest about that. But in general, Second City and other like professional places do scout a little bit, but that's more scouting for like people to keep an eye on. Almost all of it is still based on an audition or a submission of some kind. So in the live theater world, there's just no way around the audition part of it. Even if someone like comes and sees your showcase or sees it online and like, oh, let's keep an eye on Rachel, like that's kind of a cool thing. I don't see any of those places giving work to people off of a showcase because it just doesn't really happen that way. It's more like they'll kind of be rooting for you and they might look for you. All of Second City like paid work came from auditions. And you know, most of the improv world doesn't pay anything. Like that may be something that changes in the sort of revolution that's happening right now in the industry. You know, like Chicago is just up in upheaval right now about how its whole theater community, but especially its sketch improv community, is going to function. So whatever new system rises up might function completely different. Television is still hiring a lot right now, and that's all writing packets. And so they're not really scouting anything that I know of. Now that doesn't mean that they don't occasionally, like, you won't hear the story of like so-and-so made like a 2-person web series and now they're like, they got their own Comedy Central show. So that can happen. It's not impossible. I don't know that there's a format that you can just reliably pursue to achieve that, but creating your own content and putting it on the web is still a good idea. You know, like doing something is still better than doing nothing. But if you're interested in the live stuff, you can't really count on someone seeking you out and giving you that thing. You're going to have to be like throwing yourself out there. Great question.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions for our guests? Yeah, Taylor.
Hi, I had a question for Kyle. Thank you for answering my other question. But so I'm BFA acting and minoring in deaf studies. And I was just wondering if Deaf West hires hearing actors that also sign, or do you know if there's even like a need for that in the kind of community you're in?
Yeah, always a need. Any other language that you have under your belt is fantastic. My partner minored in Spanish and has been hired to do so many things because he knows how to speak in a different language. So yeah, any kind of other language you have under your belt, any other skill that you have under your belt always is going to be beneficial. Specifically about Deaf West. Very interesting. Depends on the type of show that they're going to do. So we used hearing and deaf actors kind of together. If you saw Spring Awakening during this last whatever, or if you saw a slime tutorial of Spring Awakening, that they kind of utilized you know, the hearing and the non-hearing together in that way. And we actually had a couple of the actors from Spring Awakening in our production as well. But what they're looking for mainly is good actors. If they have ASL under their belt, great. If they don't, then we spend a lot of time in the first 2 weeks kind of assimilating them to that, teaching them, going through workshops. How can we help you get onto the page of the deaf actors? And what's really great about that is that they are so willing. The actors that don't know ASL, they're so willing to learn. I haven't met a single actor that doesn't know ASL that just doesn't go headfirst. They dive deep. And so it's really wonderful to see how they approach it and how their eyes and mind kind of widen to understanding the process of a deaf actor. So it's a very fulfilling experience. If you have it under your belt, absolutely. But I wouldn't worry about it unless it's something that you're super interested in. But it sounds like you are. So kudos to you. It's a very cool skill and a very great, accessible skill to have.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, Taylor, that was Addie. This is Taylor. Here we go.
So I also have a question for Kyle. So I am a BFA Theater Studies major. And so, yes, Audrey. And so I originally have a background in performance, but have gotten also more interested in like the design and specifically stage management portion. And then I also want to be a teacher. So you seem like you can really speak to a lot of my interests. So like, how is your transition from like being an MT and like having your performance background and then moving into more like stage management design stuff?
Yeah, I would say also theater studies is probably the best emphasis that we have. I think that is such a great, well-rounded emphasis that TCU offers. Katie Melton was part of my class, and she did acting, she did design, she did just all over the place. She's in London, married, living the best life. She's everything. But I think theater studies is truly encompasses what TCU is, and that's creating well-rounded artists. And so congratulations on choosing the better, the better emphasis. I'm joking. Acting's great too. But my transition was kind of, I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know. I kind of just saw that I was performing and I was fulfilling that kind of side of things pretty well. You know, with any kind of college education, you're going to have the people that are favorited and the people that are not. Fortunately for me, I was favorited. So I got a lot of opportunities to perform. But I was kind of getting that with TCU. So I was seeking something else outside of that that maybe would have challenged me more. I'm also more of a, I guess, wanting to be stable. And so I was looking for the admin side and the stage management side that I knew that I could probably not fall back on, but could help me also perform, design, direct beyond that. It was kind of like the check that allows me to perform, the check that allows me to create, which is lovely. So I kind of had that from the start, from my freshman year, getting that internship with Circle. So I would really, I mean, we're in COVID times, so there's not like a lot of internship situations happening currently, and I apologize, but seek it out. Go onto websites in the DFW area, seek out, just email everyone and be like, hey, do you need someone to answer your phones remotely? Do you just try to find that admin, if you're interested in admin. Now, design and stage management, it's also, if you're in the DFW area, it's a lot of volunteer or less pay things, but you just have to, you know, bite the bullet and just have as much experience as you can. I assistant directed about 6 shows, no pay, but it was 7 weeks for each show. It took a lot of time, but I gained a lot of experience from that, and that's helped me outside. So you just gotta hustle. It's just a hustling gig. Make sure that you have some money behind you, so that way you can pay the bills. Because at the beginning, you know, sometimes it doesn't work out for everyone that they get like a high-paying job at the start of their career. So as long as you're willing to transition from performance to stage management administration and understand that you gotta hustle to get it going. It's a different hustle than performance, but it's still a hustle. That probably didn't answer your question.
No, it did. Thank you.
Does anybody else have a question?
I kind of have a broad question just for anybody who wants to answer. I am also a theater studies major, but I'm very interested in performance, design, entrepreneurship, kind of like combining all of those passions. So just anybody who can speak to, like you could, Shanna, you combined business with art and then just deaf with theater and performance. So anybody who's combined multiple of their passions, I'd love to hear more about that.
I would say, you know, leverage your skill set. It sounds like you know, I said it sort of from the beginning, and you know, business is the undercurrent of everything. We all have to be able to, and so it's kind of icky to say, but we all have to be able to sort of like sell ourselves or market ourselves first. So you know, whether you're a lawyer or a banker or an artist of some sort, you have to know how to navigate the world. And like so many have said, many of the alumni, we are well equipped as, you know, TCU students to have like the opportunity for well-rounded education. So, you know, it might be just sort of, you know, as Kyle was sort of saying, it's a challenging time, particularly on the visual art side or on the performing arts side for internships, but it might be an opportunity now, if you want to be more entrepreneurial, to consider opportunities where you can be at home in a more administrative role, assisting to kind of learn more of like the business background of, and it may not even be in, you know, the theater world, you know, just sort of, I think that the theme kind of for me is like, again, back to thinking outside the box. So if it's something, you know, you can flex the theater muscle when those opportunities present themselves. And until then, maybe you try to, you know, exercise that other aspect of what you want to learn and know. Does that help?
Yes, so much. Thank you.
I was going to say too, I found in my practice, and again, it's a little esoteric, but I think the lesson is still there, is that coming from a non-traditional background to get to the arts, for a very long time, because so many of my peers do have, they have an art history or a visual arts background, degree, and then they've gone through their master's degree, and they lived in New York, and I came a very different route to the exact same job. I leveraged the skills that I had, and I have found it to be, rather than my weakness, it's actually been my strength, because I understand, at the end of the day, as a visual artist, you have to sell your artwork to make a living. So how do you get that out there? So I think, if you don't understand how everything operates in your world, you kind of miss the point. You can be an artist of some sort, but if you don't have an audience, then you're kind of missing it. So, initially I kind of found it to be I thought it was my weakness. It's turned out to be my strength, because I understand and understood how the entire art ecosystem operated, and I could fit myself in where my skill set was, best utilized. And then I backfilled the education. You're constantly learning, always learning.
I would like to add something. When Tristian talked about learning the business part of everything, in music, my experience was that business was just for the business people. That's not for artists. That I grew up like that. I grew up very poorly, financially, very poor in Colombia. 30 something years ago, I used to eat once a day for many years when I went to college for my music education degree. And I used to practice so much that I used to actually sleep on the bench, in the benches of the piano. So that over time killed my back. So because somehow that was gonna be my life as an artist, deeply inside the art as an art, but not caring about money, because money is not, for artists. Because unfortunately, in music, I'm not knowledgeable as much as in other fields, but in music, most of the composers were always paid by rich people, right? Always. Very few actually were an entrepreneur. Actually, Franz Liszt was the only millionaire musician in the whole 19th century, the only one. The rest were super poor, because we don't have that mentality. I saw that and I understood that. So everything, I founded the school going in-home lessons in the whole Metroplex, from Hearst, Texas until Frisco, Texas. I used to drive 3 to 4 hours every day, to go. And one day I was sitting on the floor in a multi-millionaire house. And because I wanted to learn more, and I asked, the wife, hey, what does your husband do? I said, no, well, we own around 150 T-Mobile stores in the United States. Oh, okay. I would like to speak with your husband. Well, oh, yeah, I actually, of course, that happened after like 3 or 4 months of going every week, but also to be open, to, hey, good, anyway. And I didn't go to business school, but I learned everything. Most of the basics of business from a multimillionaire guy. That he doesn't even go to concerts, classical concerts, because he doesn't like it. Now they like it, So as an artist, let's be open and try to communicate with people that are successful financially as well, you know, because success calls success. Okay, and that's my will passionately as an artist myself as well. Having money is nice, guys, and it's wonderful,
Yes.
right? So let's just be a little more open about it.
That's great. That's a great perspective. Yeah, I mean, it ties into what Shawna was saying earlier about finding that marriage between the people who are there and able financially to consume the art, and then partnering them to artists. So we have about 13-ish minutes left. Are there any other questions that any of you would like to ask directly? So I'll ask one final question. I would love for the five of you to answer, and it is, just do you have any final nuggets of wisdom that you'd like to share? Any skills that you think students should be working on honing right now? Floor is open.
I can go ahead and chime in real quick. This is specifically for the dancers. Volunteer whatever you can for companies in the DFW area. I wish that I kind of knew that early on when I was in school. So you have opportunities to either volunteer and be on the backstage, or you're able to perform with the dance company and gain experience through that. Because with all the training, all the pedagogy and learning and studying, we get caught up in the books and we really don't really practice what we are learning. And although TCU provides great opportunity, the dance department provides great opportunity to perform. It only comes once a semester, and then sometimes in senior showcases. And so you actually have to practice and really perform more than 3 to 4 times a semester. And that will keep you edgy, and that will keep you actually more informed than if you were to study about dance history for 3 or 4 hours. You actually learn the history through the movement. And I'm sure that other artists in different mediums can preach to that you learn while doing and experiencing versus studying so much. And I wish that I knew that nugget of information as a freshman, because I didn't start inquiring about that until I was a senior. And not saying it's too late, but it took me a little while to get to Garth, and it took me a little while to get to Metropolitan Opera House. And so doing that as early on as you can. There's Dark Circles in Dallas. Mm-hmm. There is Dallas Black Theater there in Dallas. A couple of the professors have companies as well. So see what you can do about putting yourself out there as a body to willing to learn and be a vessel for their choreography and vision. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Sorry, it was so narrow.
No, specific is good. We're all for that here. That's great. Matt, do you have anything you want to throw out there?
Yeah, one of the themes that I'm sort of picking up on from all of these different threads is that conversation about networking that we started off with, and these divergent skill sets that you're developing or wondering how to develop, it all sort of overlaps at the end. Because if you want to work in this business, you're going to follow one of two paths at any given moment. You're either going to work for a system or an institution that already has all of this stuff in place, and they may not know what they're doing, but they have a system. So you're going to submit a packet, and then you're going to get hired, and you're going to be a writer on a show, and then they're going to have a format and they're going to tell you, and they're going to pay you, and you have a union. It's all sort of taken care of. Or you're going to do all of it yourself because you're in the Wild West prairie, and there's no system that's going to help you. So you're going to be relying on the people that you've already worked with and the people that you trust to help you navigate what to tackle next. And so you're kind of like the people that the networking thing for me is once I started realizing, oh, it's like networking, I never think of it as a separate thing. Networking is just being a good person to work with and then asking questions of people that you have access to. And so the people that you're going to network to get a career are the people that are in your class right now. They're the people that you're going to do that storefront show with. They're the people that you're going to meet. You're going to take a class and they're going to be the person in class. You're like, oh, I like this person. I'm interested in that. And then 7 years later, you're going to do something together with that person, or they're going to bring you in. That's how networking really is. So, but you have to have all these different skills to be in that hustle land as opposed to a system world. So, you know, I'm joking about Shanna being like, we all need Shanna. Yes, we do. Like in my improv class that I took at Second City, which is a year-long program, one of the two people that like we bonded with was an MBA who had a whole career in some other business, some boring business they didn't want to talk about. And he was just taking improv classes for fun. And so we started a sketch group, surprise, surprise. And this is the person that like got us gigs because he knew what to do. Like he knew how to write something and like connect to people. And like, we needed him kind of for his funny, but more for like that skill that he brought. And then we needed a show poster. So what do? You're like, well, I know someone that can draw, and then you ask them to draw and then they make you a poster and it's beautiful, but I couldn't do that. And this person couldn't do that. And all of a sudden you have this kind of cool style to your thing. So all of the skills that you're developing, whether it seems hard or soft skills, whether it seems relevant to the business, the funniest person I've ever partnered with, the first guy I met in Chicago, we met like literally like got off the bus, went to our audition at Second City and like went out afterwards and we're like, that was cool. Who are you? Like he was a biochemical engineer major who never studied theater or comedy in his life. And we partnered together for over a decade. He ended up writing for SNL because he had a point of view and he knew some things that other people didn't know about. And we kind of bonded over science as like, for me, a hobby, and for him, like his trade. And then all of a sudden you're bonded and you work together and then you keep working with those people. So all of those things that you're doing to get good at something, anything, that's going to be part of your little jigsaw puzzle that then somebody else's jigsaw puzzle is going to not have. And then you're going to start jigsaw puzzling your lives together and then counting on each other to get through it. So that's kind of my overall theme of connecting these threads today.
That's awesome, Matt. And you know, what you just said about point of view, and I noticed you mentioned that in the chat earlier, whenever Rachel was asking her question, how important it is for any artist to have a point of view. And I think all five of you have mentioned that at some point today.
More than ever.
More than ever.
More than ever. Because the people that are paying for art right now, and especially in the entertainment world of like TV and movies and stuff, they are starting to be getting away from like the big studio cliched boxes that people fit into. And they're giving money to people that have their own thing. And if you look at the proliferation of streaming content and networks that are streaming smaller, more niche focused stuff, it's all people who are like, I don't fit into a box. I don't fit into this. I'm A or B. I'm something else. And that's what people are starting to buy. So that's a really exciting time to be an original creating artist who's just doing your thing. It's a good time to kind of be in on that right now.
Yes. I so agree with that. Shawna, Kyle, Eduardo, anything you want to add in these last 5 minutes? I know it's short, but
I'll mention just real quick. So for the visual artist, the channels and the outlets for showing and selling artwork were already changing before COVID happened to a more online model. The days of the brick and mortar gallery is becoming more and more challenging. And COVID has just accelerated that. And I think it speaks to sort of what Matt was saying. For us, it's, in the 1960s and 70s, there were 10 arbiters of taste in New York City who told the art world what artists to buy. With the internet age and with Instagram and this digital age where anyone can kind of show their artwork, it's a double-edged sword. There are more channels and outlets to be able to sell. You don't necessarily need the traditional gallery model anymore to be a successful artist. I mean, it's still incredibly critical, but you don't necessarily need that anymore. But it makes it even more important, as Matt said, to set yourself apart and know your work really well, and to be able to communicate it and to, you know, sell it yourself. That's incredibly important for the artist today, because you have to, you know, rise above the rest and the noise to be seen. Oh shoot, I lost that. So that is incredibly, I lost my train of thought, but that is incredibly important, just to sort of know your work very well. And oh, I know, connect with other artists, right? Like obviously you're, you know, in school with other students, but as everyone else has said, connect with other artists who are working in your area of profession and volunteer your time. Apprentice, do that now. I have found that for a lot of, you know, gallerists that I work for, often if they're bringing on a new artist into their gallery, they've probably been, they found that artist through another artist. It's not from the internet or from an unsolicited, you know, presentation. It's, they've connected through other artists. So, so yes, connecting with artists. And the good news, bad news to being in a digital era for the visual artist is that there is it's flat, right? We don't get to see it in person, is unfortunate, but there's a lot of material to be seen right now. And there's a lot of education online. So there are still ways to connect in the visual world right now. So that we are fortunate with.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. So we've got about 2 minutes left. Melanie, Kim, do you want to rejoin our patchwork Zoom? Let's see. Melanie's got something in the chat I'll throw out there. She says, most jobs are found through the hidden job market. People who know and trust you. And I think that's amazing. And that goes right back to what we were talking about earlier with building relationships. Be genuine, be kind, be open, be receptive. And I think that's really important. So I just want to say thank you for allowing me to moderate this conversation. Thank you all for joining us today. And to our 5 panelists, thank you sincerely for spending your time and your energy with us on this Thursday. Melanie, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Lydia, for moderating, and to all of our panelists for sharing your expertise and your experience with us. This is what our fine arts students need to know. You know, it's not always necessarily pretty, but it is real, and it gives them the tools that they're going to need moving forward to be successful. And I just echo networking. I know this is a scary word, but this is what you're doing right now, right? You're having conversations with people and you're getting to know people, and you're asking questions that will help you as you move forward in your future. So continue to do these types of events, continue to come meet with me and work with me if you're having questions about what you might want to do in the future. I'm always here. If you're not familiar with Handshake, get familiar with Handshake Frog Jobs, log on, schedule an appointment. I'm happy to speak with you. And once again, I just want to thank all of our panelists for taking the time to be with us today. This is a tumultuous time, and the fact that you are spending your hour and a half with us is a treasure. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day. This has been recorded, so we will be posting that, so stay tuned for that, and have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.